friends, this is SMS Life, Sound Mind, Sound Life. In each podcast, we bring you something valuable about lives. And in this podcast, let's explore what is hostility from psychology perspective. This is a motive that most of us do not like to admit, but that all of us possess. Evidence of it first appears in the child at about the age of 2. Up to then, all that he has seemed to want from other people is their presence and the stimulation, help, and approval they provide. But at this stage, he begins to want something else from them. He wants, at times, to see them display signs of worry, fears of discomfort, actual pain. Later, he may hope that misfortune will befall them and that he will have the gratification of knowing about it. Some scientists, as has been said, consider hostility to represent a biological trait that makes aggressive behavior as inevitable a part of the human condition as fighting over territories is for baboons and other animals. Others, probably a majority, believe that the hostility motive is learned and that it stems from the fact that the child cannot have everything he wants. Some of his desires are bound to be frustrated by the rules of society and by the conflicting desires of other people. He cannot always eat what he wants to. He has to learn to control his drive for elimination, except when he is in the bathroom. He cannot have the toy that another child owns and is playing with. His mother cannot spend all her time catering to his whims. Other children, bigger than he, push him around. The aggression that often results from hostility may take such varied forms as argumentativeness, scorn, sarcasm, physical and mental cruelty, and fighting. Yet, while most people are motivated at some time by hostility, not everyone displays aggression. Boys and men are more inclined to do so than are girls and women, for society approves of a certain amount of aggression in the male but discourages it in the female. Just as dependent behavior is peculiarly a female prerogative in our society, so is aggression largely a male prerogative. In recent years, there has been considerable debate on the question of whether watching aggressive behavior in movies or on television encourages aggression. Some psychologists have taken the view that it does just the opposite, that it has a cathartic effect that tends to purge tendencies toward hostility and therefore to discourage actual aggression. Among the experimental evidence that supports this viewpoint is a study of the dreams of boys aged 6 through 11. The boys who were volunteers slept for 2 nights in a laboratory were wakened each time they displayed REM sleep, and were asked to report if they could remember having been dreaming. On one night, just before going to bed, they watched a baseball film. On the other night, a violent scene of an Indian attack on a frontier settlement. Although one might suppose that the violent movie would result in numerous bad dreams, actually the boys had fewer dreams of any kind after watching it. And of the dreams they did have, fewer were hostile or otherwise unpleasant. A number of other studies, however, seem to dispute the theory that viewing aggression has a cathartic effect, except perhaps under rather special conditions. For example, you may recall the photographs of children attacking a large doll with a hammer after watching a movie of an adult who had done the same thing. In this connection, it is important to note that the people are more likely to behave aggressively when they are feeling frustrated or angry, such as when they have been subjected experimentally to situations in which they fail at a task or receive ridicule. Some recent evidence indicates that a combination of some kind of angry arousal plus the observation of aggression is especially likely to result in aggressive behavior. In a study whose results are showing 6 groups of adolescent youths in a California penal institution volunteered for what they thought was a learning experiment. 3 groups were made angry by disparaging remarks from a confederate of the experimenter, while the other 3 groups were not. All the groups then watched one of 3 short movies. For all the groups, the first half of the movie was the same: 2 boys shooting baskets. The last half, however, was different. In one case, the boys merely went on to play a friendly game of basketball. This was the film called Neutral. In another, they got into a fight in which one boy's angry facial expressions, shouts, and blows were emphasized. This was the aggression film. In the third, the boys again got into a fight, but this time the emphasis was on the beating one boy appeared to be taking and the pain he was supposedly suffering. This was the pain film. Afterward, the subjects were asked to help in a learning study by giving feedback to another person in the form of an electric shock every time he made a mistake. The intensity and duration of the shocks were left to the subject's own judgment. Actually, no shocks were delivered. The learner was again a confederate of the experimenter and only pretended to be suffering pain. The lowest amount of pain was inflicted by subjects who had not been angered and had watched the neutral film. The highest amount by subjects who were angered and had watched the pain film. The study showed. We will continue this subject in the upcoming podcast. Thanks for listening. Have a nice day.